You don't want too much of one thing or too much of something else.
Right.
You kind of want it in the middle. And people who want to find faults in it will find faults in it. I mean, my only thing is it didn't really make sense, but it's
Right.
it's a Barbie movie, so I'm not looking to solve world problems with it. But
Now,
it was fun.
did you happen to catch any of the Lego movies when they came out?
Oh yeah, I've seen them all.
Yeah, I really liked the Lego movies. A buddy of mine drugged me to the first one. Hey, we sit in the theater, and I'm like, dude, really Lego? But it was actually pretty good.
Yeah, those got like a dry sense of humor, and like the jokes are funny, and it's not trying to be what it's not. It's a Lego movie, so it's gonna be tongue in cheek type um like situations. And the funniest part for me, as far as the Barbie movie, was Ryan Gosling as Ken. I thought
Mhm.
he made me laugh out loud a few times with the stuff he was saying, and taking like the very worst of masculinity and like putting it like up to like 1,000 notches. So
Right.
you got to go into it with a sense of humor. You can't take it too seriously. It seems like
Yeah.
everything has got to be like, oh well, this is more left wing or this is more right wing. It's just fun, man. It's just a freaking Barbie movie. Get over it.
Right.
You know. And yes, it was fun. I had
That's
a I,
cool.
I went to Food Lion today after I dropped off RJ,
Mhm.
and I was walking down the aisle. I went to go get RJ some zero sugar Sprite, right? And
Yep.
I passed by this gray bottle, and on the gray bottle it said Diet Right on there. And I was looking at it and I'm thinking, I don't know anybody who has ever bought Diet Right before. It just seems to always be there. And it's like, I was saying I guess people do buy it, but it was just I don't know. In my head, I'm like, who buys Diet Right?
Right. I haven't had that in the longest time.
I think my aunt may have bought it. I think I've had it, but it is not that good.
No. I mean, it will do in a pinch, but
Yeah, if you're really thirsty, someone has a Diet Right and hands it to you and it's cold, you'll drink it. Diet Right Cola. Oh, let's see here. Let's find out. Let's read the Wikipedia on Diet Right.
right.
Diet Right is an American brand of no-calorie soft drinks that was originally distributed by RC Cola Company. Diet Right was introduced in 1958, and it was initially released a dietetic, not diabetic, dietetic product as a dietetic product, but
Hmm.
is introduced nationwide and marketed to the general public as a healthy beverage in 1962. The original formula was sweetened with cyclamate and saccharin. After cyclamate was banned in 1969, it was removed from the product. NutraSweet brand aspartame was added upon its introduction to the market.
Kind of reminds me of the story behind Kellogg's. Um, Back in the day, Mr. Kellogg had uh, it was basically a sanitarium, not a
Mm-hmm.
sanatorium, a sanitarium, basically where people would go to, get better and figure out what's going on. Well, he put together a dietary regimen, and in it was Kellogg's Frosted Flakes before they were frosted. Um, and it was a big struggle because his brother wanted him to market it as cereal, and he was like, "Well, what's the point? Because people are going to get it cheap. It's actually part of a medical diet. I don't want to release it, but it got released as a cereal, and does millions of dollars worth of revenue every year. So
Yeah, that Kellogg's guy, he wanted to keep people from having sex. So they were like, if you follow this regiment, and if you eat boring things, and he'd have these corn cakes, and they would. I guess the brother ended up breaking up the corn cakes and adding milk to it, and that became the cereal.
yep.
The guy was like, "Oh shoot, I got something here," and it was like,
Well,
"No, this is not what it's meant for."
there was actually a guy that worked in that kitchen that thought he could figure something out, and that's where you get Post and grape nuts. Was the gentleman that worked
Oh
in
yeah,
the
he
Killa
he did
kitchen,
some, yeah, he was like, "Oh well, let me see this." Okay,
right?
I like this idea. I'm going to go ahead and take this and go do my thing over here. And yeah, that was a little sneaky of him.
Right.
Says Diet Right is now owned by Keurig and Dr. Pepper.
Huh. Interesting.
You get a Keurig K cup. Let's see if I can find a Diet Right commercial.
I haven't seen one of those in years.
Oh, let's see here. I'm gonna do one. Can you hear it okay? Hang on.
Yep.
Let's see.
Geez, that had to be like what, late 70s, early 80s? Or 60s even?
Only half the calories. It's amazing.
Right.
I used to drink Tab.
Back in the day.
Yeah, that was a Coke back in the day. Actually, it wasn't that long ago. That I think Tab just went out of style.
Yeah.
Not too long ago.
You can still find it.
I bought it like as a because I'm like my I know my aunt used to drink Tab.
Mhm.
So there would always be a case of Tab at the beach that she would bring with us on our family vacations. But and it would always be there, and I would just kind of pass it by. And then one day I was like, I'm gonna try this old school. They used to be like Tab drink machines. Like Tab was the
Right.
thing back in the day. But I mean, I don't know. Maybe with the invention of Coke Zero, which was Tab was a Coke product,
Mm-hmm.
And they have Diet Coke, and like, why would we buy Tab if I can get Diet Coke, or if I can just get Coke, or
Right.
Coke Zero or whatever? So, I guess like the nostalgic in me was like, oh, we got to get some Tab just to
Right.
try it. And then,
It's like old school Joke Cola. You can't find that anymore.
no, exactly. And I think they brought it back, but it wasn't the same.
Yeah.
They didn't put all the caffeine in it and stuff. And like you can find Surge. You used to be able to find Surge at Burger King.
Love Surge.
Trying to think of what other drinks or Clearly Canadian. I guess that's back. They brought that back.
I remember as a kid, so there was Surge, but on the other side of it, there was one called Kick in a Can.
Kick in the Can?
Kick in a Can. Yep, that was good. I remember that.
They used to have these, they're Four Locos, I guess they're called. I guess they still have those.
Yeah, yep.
That was an energy drink and alcohol mixed together.
Four Loko can get a little dangerous.
God, I used to be crazy, man. I used to play beer pong at my house and fill up with Four Loko. That was interesting. Or like get a bottle of Steel Reserve.
Do you ever touch Mad Dog 2020?
I've touched it. God. Sometimes I miss those days where you can just fucking drink and not care.
Right.
There was this malt liquor called Old English, right?
Yep.
And there was a derivative of it called Old English Panther. And it was Like I would drink it and I would just, it'd be obliviated. I'd be gone, 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 gone.
Where am I? What am I doing?
Exactly. Just sit there and just drink and, mess around on YouTube or whatever. Now I try drinking a beer and like halfway through it, I'm peeing every
Right.
5 minutes. So,
Well, once you break the seal, there ain't no stopping.
no. And that's the thing. Even when you want to go to sleep, it ain't no stopping. So you're ready for bed. I'm so tired, and you're like, oh God, I gotta use the bathroom again.
The joys of getting old, huh?
Oh my God. If you want to call it a joy, that's certainly not certainly not what I would call it.
Right.
Yeah, so I'll go out and I'm like, I want to buy a beer, man. I want to get said I'll go for months without drinking. I'm like, well, I have like an urge to drink a beer. So I'll go out. I bought a 6-pack of Miller Lite the other day. And it'll probably sit there in my refrigerator for the next year.
Yeah, I used to drink a lot, but alcoholism runs on my family, so I've kind of stepped it back. But yeah, I mean, I'll go over to my parents' place and we've got a drink fridge over there, and every now and then, I'll reach in and take one of my dad's IPAs. That's all he drinks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I like
one of those, and I'm done.
Those have really, really high alcohol content in them too. I feel like when I drink something like a Sam Adams or one of those dark beers, like you said, IPA or something. I feel like I feel it more. And
right.
I'm more of a light beer. Don't really like the heavy stuff. And
right.
And I like getting to the edge of being drunk. Like when I was in college, that's when I would drink the Old English and the Mad Dog 2020 because I was partying. I was in school.
Right.
But once I got out and was, had the family and stuff, I would drink more like PBR, but I'd drink like 4 or 5 of them or something like that. Enough just to give me a nice buzz, but never like room spinning, sloppy ass drunk.
Something to just take the edge off.
Yeah. But nowadays it's like, man, I really don't see the point.
Yeah. No, we had a friend of ours that, I'm 39 and he partied like in his late 20s. He partied like he was still in college. I mean, he'd have house parties. They'd run till like, I don't know, 4 or 5 in the morning. And it looked like Jonestown the morning after, people just passed out everywhere.
Yeah.
And I think he finally quit. But for me, it was like, I was partying hard through my 20s, but I hit 30 and it's like, okay, well, time to adult.
Plus it's harder to recover when you get older.
Yeah.
They yeah, I mean it's tough because then we have kids, and it was easier with Rihanna because I was younger and had more stamina, and me and my ex-wife Shannon, we were the ones having the parties, like fucking playing beer pong with Steel Reserve.
Jeez.
And we would go crazy. We'd have silly string wars in our apartment, water gun fights we just go. It was fun, man.
Right.
And it's just different now.
Yeah.
With more, I don't say more mature because that would be a lie. More tired would probably be the more accurate description of how I'm feeling right now.
Right.
So we were going to talk about supernatural stuff. I promise. We just kind of go off on tangents about Diet Right and
alcohol.
Yes. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna buy a bottle of Diet Right and we're gonna start drinking it. Do they have the Tide Pod challenges on TikTok. I'm gonna do the Diet Right. You young kids, I'll show you a challenge. I'm gonna drink a bottle of Diet Right.
Right.
I mean,
hashtag diabetes.
Yes.
Good old Wilford Brimley.
Now they have the dumbest challenges.
Yeah.
On TikTok. You said that one challenge they have where they go on a boat, right? They go
Mhm.
super fast, and the challenge is to jump off the boat while it's going really fast. And people are breaking their necks as soon as they hit the water.
Okay, that's stupid.
Yes.
Yeah,
What is the challenge to not die? I mean, that sounds like
right. See how many vertebrae you can snap in one go.
yeah, yeah. One guy, 32 years old with a family on a boat. He did it, and
Jeez.
he killed him in front of his kids, wife and kids.
I mean, I've done rescue jumps from a boat, but that's at low speed.
Yeah, but you know and you also know what you're doing.
Right.
You know, you know how to hit the water,
Yeah.
and I'm sure they're just falling out. They're just falling out the boat and hitting the water and breaking their necks.
Right.
And it's like, why? Because I think as to think about these, like we were talking about earlier on the show on Monday. You know, if you do the same thing everybody else is doing,
Mhm.
how are you going to stand out? If everyone does something, like I watched when the Grimace shake came out from McDonald's, people were doing the Grimace TikTok trend. Well, basically, they drink a Grimace shake, and then they film themselves spitting it back up again, like Grimace is killing them or something. But there are like 50 million of those videos, and it's like it's always the same thing. So it's like how are you going to stand out?
Yeah.
You know, so if you do something stupid like that, you're doing it for what, maybe 100 views, and no one's going to like that. No one's going to be like, oh well, thumbs up for that.
And you're not directly getting money from it.
No. That's the sad thing about the world we live in now, is that, you know, people are craving to stand out, craving to be different, craving that fame.
Mhm.
So they'll do whatever they feel is necessary to get that fame,
Right.
or get that video that makes them stand out. So they'll get a bunch of followers, and they'll have people, you know, they'll get sponsors, and they'll get you know, they'll get money that way without really having to do the work.
Right.
I mean, but the more extreme they get, the better, more of a chance they get to, you know, maybe get a sponsor or something. That's really kind of a sad state of affairs.
Yeah. Meanwhile, we're over here struggling to try and get monetized, and
yeah, yeah, that's what I'm doing, making that the ultimate sacrifice and buying a bottle of Diet Right, because something I have to do. I mean, somebody has to do it. There's probably like a warehouse full of Diet Right.
Well, you do the Diet Right, I'll get the tab, and we'll make it work.
Nice. If you can find a tab, that'd be awesome. You know, Diet Right, some kind of, it's like some kid. You know how they have this conspiracy theory that like mattress stores are like a front for laundering money. That's what Diet Right is. It's like some kind of mafia thing. And I shouldn't talk too much about it, because I might get offed. Yeah.
Jimmy Two Toes might make a visit, and you might go disappearing.
I might go swimming with the fishes. If I don't show up Tuesday night, you'll know where I am.
Right.
I wear my cement shoes. I missed with the Diet Right cartel, and you know, shit went down.
Right. So if your live stream goes black, we know what happens.
Exactly. Yeah. Whatever happened to Ryan? Oh, you guys are the wrong people. They should do something. They should do like, it would be a fun challenge, like do the do your dishes challenge, or clean your room challenge on TikTok. That's hard because nobody wants to do that.
No, because that's not fun.
The be a good person challenge.
Right. Yeah, we need more of that in the world.
Yes, we do. So I told you I'd find a train story, and we're going to talk about trains. The haunted Churchill Tunnel in Virginia has a bone-chilling history. Tunnels and superstitions seem to go hand in hand. There are many people who feel a sense of foreboding when entering a tunnel. Hang on 1 second. I'll be right back. You know what's sad? What I've
What's that?
replaced drinking beer with? Drinking bubbly flavored water. That's what I've replaced beer with. That's
Yeah, I'm on that kick too.
zero sugar, zero. You got a little bit of flavor to it. I'm drinking zero sugar diet or zero sugar Coke right now.
Hmm.
But I needed something to. I just bought the bubbly from Food Lion, so I'm trying to get it to cool off in the refrigerator. But I know I have some Coke Zero here,
Right.
so that's why I need something to clear my throat when I'm doing a story. Um, built as in the 1870s as a Chesapeake and Ohio Railway tunnel, this landmark has been associated with tragedy and ruin. Here's more of the haunted Churchill Tunnel, which still exists today, but has been blocked off for safety reasons. So here's a picture of it here. I wonder what that says right there in the middle. I don't know. I can't read it.
Yeah, I don't know.
The railway was motivated to reach Collis P. Huntington's new coal pier in Newport News, which is near the coast. The construction of the tunnel was almost immediately problematic. Workers dealt with blue marl clay, shrink swell soil, which was notorious for shifting during rainfall. 10 lives were lost to cave-ins before the tunnel was even completed. On October 2nd, 1925, the tunnel unexpectedly collapsed as a work train was passing through. 4 men were killed and the locomotive was trapped inside the tunnel. 1926, I guess that's what that thing said in the middle of it.
Right.
The east end of the tunnel can be found north of Williamsburg Road near 31st Street, just below Liberty Terrace. While sealing the tunnel ensured that no more trains would be risk of the collapsing structure, cave-ins continued to be an issue. The east entrance, this is where people usually go in right here.
Okay. So one
They
end
sneak
is
in.
open so you can get in there.
Yeah. Well, it can get farther in, but it's still sealed off. So,
Right.
the Virginia Historical Society has expressed interest in recovering the train from the enclosed tunnel. However, there are concerns that doing so might cause further damage. Given its tragic and complicated history, it's no wonder that the Churchill Tunnel is associated with paranormal activity. In fact, it's even associated with the fabled Richmond vampire. According to an urban legend, there is a supernatural twist to the collapse of the tunnel. Supposedly, workers who went to rescue the train and its workers reported seeing an unearthly creature with jagged teeth hanging over the destruction, standing over the destruction.
I saw that thing about Facebook charging $4.95.
Mhm.
Could you
Go ahead, Ryan.
The creature then fled the scene and returned to its gravesite at Hollywood Cemetery, marked by the name of W.W. Poole. Researchers believe that this vampire was more likely to be a railroad fireman who had suffered burns. Have you seen the haunted Churchill Tunnel in Richmond? What are your thoughts on this fascinating and tragic landmark in the Dominion? So I think it's more like urban legends associated with the tunnel.
Right. Well, and like they said there, it's probably not a vampire, but it was probably either the engineer or brakeman that.
Yeah.
Because, we're talking about live steam there. And if you have a cave in, who knows what kind of damage was caused to the boiler. And a very important thing about boilers, which the layperson wouldn't know, is they live off of water. If you rob water from the boiler, there's something called the crown sheet, and that's where the top of the crown sheet, there's a little cavity in there, and that's where the water turns into steam. Well, if you rob the crown sheet of water, that's where you will get deformations and explosions. And usually when that happens, it's a steam explosion that goes into the cab and takes out, the engineer, the brakeman, the fireman, whoever's in there.
it was probably one of those things where someone said they saw something and they saw the guy looked crazy, or in jagged teeth and full of burns and stuff, and it goes from like almost like a game of telephone, and
Right.
eventually it ends up, the guy is a vampire.
Well, and
The word of mouth changes stories and stuff.
That's usually what it is just, he said, she said, and that does happen. And the spreading, it's like a giant game of telephone. The first person says, "Oh, I saw this," and then they tell it to someone else,
Yeah.
and it grows. And if you don't have control over what's being said, things get added to it.
And plus, a vampire is a lot more fun to talk about than, I just found some, it was just a worker.
Yeah.
And that's what happened. Oh, we'll call it a vampire. Maybe it was like a story and to scare people,
right,
or whatever. We got a video here. I'm gonna watch about the Richmond vampire. See if there's any more information,
right,
about it on the video here.
That picture of the tunnel was showing me that there's a lot of water infiltration there.
Yeah. Yeah, like right here.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's like
showing,
a lot. Yeah. And there's a creek that is like you have to go through a creek to go get it in the east end of the tunnel.
okay. So the water level there's, or the water table there is pretty low.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, when you think about it, it's like, so why would the vampire be there? Like, did it just show up like when it exploded? Did it like materialize there and like then it ran? It's like, if you can, it doesn't make any sense if you try to think about it logically.
No.
So, but I guess it's not really a ghost train, but a ghost tunnel, maybe.
Right. Well, and there are other recollections of like different train wrecks. Like I was listening to one yesterday on YouTube, and basically what happened was there was a derailment where the train was going full bore and the bridge had gone out and nobody knew, and it just ass over tea kettled into the valley. And that was in like 1912, 1913. But in like 1945, or in the early 40s, there were a couple that were driving on that road adjacent to that line, and their car broke down, and the husband went to go get gas or whatever and left the wife there. And while she was standing there waiting, she saw this train go by, an older train go by, and she saw and heard the derailment and heard people, screaming and yelling. And she ran over and she saw all these cars laying in the valley. And then she heard a car pull up. So she ran back to the road. And by the time she told these people, hey, there's a derailment, we need to go help, by the time they got back over there, there was nothing there.
Oh, wow.
So it was just that whole stone tape residual going on, because there was so much. And like you and I say, if there's enough trauma, it's going to imprint on that area, and that's going to happen.
Yeah, that's true, man. A lot of times you'll hear stories about people witnessing battles, or they'll see soldiers walking.
Mm-hmm.
Especially at like Gettysburg and places like that.
Right.
There will be like, oh well, yeah, I saw a soldier. Even like I talked to a soldier.
Mm-hmm.
Like there was no soldiers there.
Right. Well, and I've heard of that happening too at like Gettysburg. Is you'll have just a visitor, standing by a monument or by one of the monument cannons, and they'll say, oh, I was standing there hanging out, and a reenactor came up and talked to me, and you're like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
What were they wearing? Well, they were in Union blue, and they were talking about a position, or they were really interested in what I was dressed in. And then, they'll tell that to somebody, and they're like, 9 times out of 10, they'll tell that to a park ranger, and the park ranger's like, are you sure it's a reenactor? Because we didn't have any reenactors in the park at that time. And yeah, it's usually just, it was such a traumatic event that their lives ended so abruptly that if it's a live haunting, they don't know that they're gone. They don't know that their life had ended. And if it's a residual, it's just because it's an imprint. It's an imprint of that tragic event, because it was so horrific that it keeps playing. But usually, in my mind, with the not the residual, but the active, usually in my thought is that it was such a traumatic death that they don't know that they're gone.
And they're going about their business.
Yep.
And it's sad.
Right.
But on a lighter note, I know you were talking about wanting to go to King's Dominion, because I went there with RJ the other day.
Right.
And it's a really fun park. It was a Cedar Fair park, but now it's no, it is Cedar Fair Park. It was
okay.
It used to be like Hanna-Barbera land, and it's Smurfs and like Yogi Bear.
Yeah.
They kind of went belly up, and then so Paramount took it over.
Mm-hmm.
So it's they did lots of like Star Trek rides and stuff like that. So now it's a Cedar Fair Park. So there's a lot of Snoopy, like Snoopy, Planet Snoopy, and stuff like that.
So
but
it's in the family with Cedar Point and Valley Fair.
Yeah.
Valley Fair is the park that we have up here in Shakopee.
Okay. Yeah, it's the same family. Do you like going on rides? like roller
I
coasters and
do.
stuff?
You know, I really haven't been to an amusement park in probably, I don't know, maybe 10 years. I just been busy with life. You know, that happens. And
Yeah, I mean
yeah, I
it
like
happens.
the last time I went on a ride, it was at a county fair, and I figured out I can't do those county fair spinny rides anymore.
Oh no, no. Angie loves those rides, and I can get sick just watching them
Mhm.
spin around.
Yeah, I was doing everything in my power not to yak on the ride. It was just
It always seems like when you're not feeling good, when you've got and you're on a ride and you know you're gonna throw up. It feels like they're taking forever to stop the ride on purpose.
right.
You're like, you've only been there for like 2 minutes. So I'm like, I know I've been on here for like an hour. What are they doing? Now it's like now you think the people who have the ride doing the ride have a vendetta against you.
right.
I'm like, do these people work for Diet Right or something? What is going on?
Reminds me of the scene in the movie. Do you remember Sandlot?
Yeah, yeah.
You remember when they went to the county fair at night and I think it was Smalls kiped his old man's bag of Red Man chew?
Oh yeah.
They all threw in a dip in the lip, and then they went on the tilt-a-whirl. Yeah, that didn't end well.
Yeah. It's always the worst thing. I never like these are fair for us in Virginia. It is it's in the fall or in like late September, so it's not super hot. You know? But yeah, I'm not a big fan of spinny rides any time of the year. But it got me thinking about it.
Mhm.
You know, we're talking about amusement park rides. I figured we might as well as our last article, because this is going to take a while, talk about the 6 most terrifying theme parks rides ever built. I mean, if we're going to go on rides, you might as well make them fun, right?
Right. Well, and it's funny you mentioned this because I watch a lot of YouTube stuff about like amusement park accidents and all that.
Yeah.
So kind of right up my alley.
Yeah. I watched, what was that theme park in like New Jersey, Action Park or some shit like that?
Yeah.
Where
Oh
it's
my
like
God.
that tube that goes around, you know, in a circle, like people are breaking their necks trying to
Class
do it.
action park.
They would pay the workers to go down a slide because like
Well, and the thing about Action Park is a lot of those rides weren't made by like an engineering company. It was dreamed up by the guy who owned the park, and the workers just put together his ride, and then he would pay the workers a bonus if they would try it out first.
the name Action Park seems so generic. Like, you know, it's like the discount toilet paper of amusement parks. You know?
It's not even 2-ply.
Yeah, I mean, we bought a thing of toilet paper for the cabin. It was like cheap stuff, but it said ultra premium. It's like putting 2 words together to make it to make them sound cool.
Right.
Like, the heck is ultra premium Action Park? I mean, it just sounds something like something you would you know, buy tickets for like at Dollar General or something like that.
Yeah. And there were so many injuries there that it got the nickname Class Action Park.
Yeah,
because there were so many class action lawsuits against it.
I guess that's why they have regulations and like kind of like okay, maybe you need to follow these rules, and I just hammer some shit together and call it Funland,
and that's what kind of feeds into our segment here.
Exactly
the safety regulations.
Well, there are make safety regulations for some of these theme park rides.
No.
The first one, number 6, is the original Russian mountains. Got a picture here. Everyone's going down. Let's look at this guy right here. Looks like he's losing control.
Right.
Let's see.
Well, and that looks like that was early 1900s, late 1800s.
You see the top hat guy and little mustache right there. Russia has a long, proud, terrifying history with roller coasters dating back to the 17th century. with something like most likely copious amounts of vodka consumption, convinced the Russians that constructing massive wooden scaffolds, cutting them in ice, and pushing their children down them would be a great idea. Does that sound like fun?
Yeah, I want to do that now.
You live in Minnesota. You might be able to pull that off.
Right?
Russian mountains are basically giant, nearly 5 stories tall slides built from the most rudimentary materials possible. Even the sleighs were made entirely out of ice. Well, that's interesting. This
Yeah.
is the sort of ingenious yet utterly unlikely contraption you expect to find in an episode of the Flintstones. Riders would climb up the rickety staircase and fling themselves down on frozen toboggans, which often came complete with purposefully placed bump at the end just to jar your groin a bit more.
Jeez.
So you build a scaffolding and they make this like almost like a ski jump, cover in ice, and you go down as a sled that's made of ice.
Right. Basically, an ice block chiseled into a sled.
So that just shows how hardcore Russians are.
Yeah.
Shit. I know I want to do that shit.
Well, Vladimir and Ivan were probably half a bottle into vodka and figured that out on their own.
That's true. But I don't think these people are too crazy. So there are safety measures.
Right.
As for safety measures, they consisted of a rope fastened to the sleigh for you to hold on to as you careen down the track at was typically a 50-degree angle in the period's most technologically advanced stopping mechanism. The
50,
straw.
So that's almost near vertical, 50 degrees.
And they would sprinkle straw at the end of the track to stop the sled. Yeah. The straw was actually sprinkled in small layers at the end of the slide to provide friction, a measure that typically allowed at least one of the several riders to survive any given trip. So at least one of them would survive.
Right.
Since they relied on ice, Russian mountains were only available during the winter. That is until thrill-seeking Empress Catherine the Great, the Michael Jackson of the 1700s, apparently decided to have her own personal slide built in her backyard and demanded it be usable during the brief portion of the year that Russia isn't a depressing ice sculpture. Laws of nature be damned. The terrified subjects solved the problem by using wheeled carts instead of ice tracks, thus inventing the modern-day roller coaster.
Wow.
And here's a picture of Catherine the Great herself.
Friction be damned.
Yes. Number 5, the Manch-Chunk Railway. What's the longest roller coaster you've taken? 3 to 4 minutes probably, and all of it spent, no doubt, tightly pinned down by your chest in a car that was safely secured to the track. The Manch-Chunk Railway in Carbon County, Pennsylvania, had no time for any of that shit. You can't have that. The downhill railway traveled at a maximum speed of 100 miles per hour, propelled entirely by a little thing called gravity. Ever heard of it?
Yeah.
It was actually built in 1827 as a coal delivery system. But in a flash of brilliance, the workers had the idea of occasionally filling the cars with children and shoving them down the hill for a quick buck. I mean, you got to make money. This would be a TikTok challenge right here.
Oh my gosh.
A single pants-shitting ride in this prehistoric roller coaster lasted something like half an hour, by which time the cars were probably overflowing with occupants' tears. So imagine going down a hill, 100 miles an hour, for half an hour.
Oh my gosh.
I don't know how that's even possible. This created one of the most amazingly intense and dumbfoundingly stupid public attractions of all time, especially considering that the mere ability to secure the car to the track was still some 100 years away from being invented, meaning that the railway was not so much a roller coaster as it was, in the words of roller coaster historians, a runaway train.
Right, because people don't really realize the difference between a train car and a roller coaster car in the facts as such as a roller coaster car, yeah, they have wheels on the top of the track, but there's actually another set of wheels connected to the carriage underneath the track that keeps it captive. Train cars don't have that. They just have it's a steel wheel with a flange on the back of it, and the flange keeps it centered left and right. But if you have enough of a dip where you can get airborne, it'll come off of the track.
Yeah, I mean, plus, roller coasters, they're going up and down really fast, and they got gravity. If you try to do a train to go up and down like roller coasters do, the back of the train would probably pop up, going down the hill because they're going at such high speeds.
Or so your coupler is going to have enough slack where it will decouple itself.
Yeah. Plus, I mean, trains are bigger than roller coasters, so they're not really built. Again, they're not built for that. Constant up and down. And they'll go up a hill, but they'll go up a hill slow. And these, I guess, they're mining carts. As far as like,
well, and I wouldn't put it past the miners to say, hey, let's give it a go.
Yeah, I mean,
ticket to boo, eh?
Yeah. They're like, oh, I wouldn't make an extra $1.
Right.
Like, I mean, like the kids will love it. It's a thrill.
We got to get beer money somehow.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's I don't know if anybody's actually killed on it, so it's like it's dangerous, but it's also it's the thrill. It's a story,
right?
And you're like, oh yeah, I remember that. We used to, or like even like wearing seatbelts and stuff. I used to climb around back in my parents' station wagon and like lay down and not even worry about it. And definitely think people should wear seatbelts. I'm just saying that it was just different back when we were growing up.
I can remember one of my buddy's stories. I think he was talking about his grandpa, where in the early 60s still seatbelts were an option. But when they started making them mainstream, there were guys that would buy a car, and the first thing they did when they got home, they'd cut the seatbelts out.
Yeah. Like, I don't need this shit.
Right?
So the ride became so popular that it was eventually transformed into a full-time tourist attraction, complete with a hotel and a restaurant at the top of the track, plus a gift shop selling artists' impressions of people flashing their boobs and what your face looked like at the height of the terror you like to imagine. Yeah, they don't have the little the camera, so they're like artists like painting. At some point, the coal cars were replaced by a small train, but it was still completely powered by gravity and human fear. Apparently, the transition from mining rail to roller coaster was mostly a matter of semantics. Let's see. They did add a second steam powered uphill track that could take passengers to the top in only 8 minutes. This was a major improvement from the previous 4.5 hours that it took to get up the first time.
Because they were probably walking.
Yeah, probably. A 4-hour walk.
And only a half hour back down.
Yeah. Picture. It looks like a trolley car going down the road.
Yeah, that's insane.
Actually, no, I think this is actually taking it up. See, people are facing this way.
Yep.
But yeah, that's taking the people up the mountain here. The human catapult. Ever wonder what happened to all the catapults once humankind figured out how more efficient ways to hurl the shit at each other? They're probably in some museum or something, right? As it turns out, One of them, or at least a very good replica, ended up in Middlevore Park in the UK, where people paid $70 to be catapulted into the air in the manner of a medieval projectile. The human trebuchet, as they called it, launched unprotected, unsecured patrons more than 75 feet into a freestanding net suspended between giant poles. This allowed park visitors to recreate the experience of being a plague-ridden corpse in the Middle Ages.
Too many variables that'll go wrong there.
There's a little variable right there.
Right.
In 2002, the trebuchet proved to be exactly as safe as it looks when one man tragically missed the safety net. But despite claiming this might be where it was.
Yeah.
But despite claiming one life and causing at least one person serious injuries, the deadly attraction, presumably closed now, actually became a huge hit in Japan. This is the part where we act surprised. Let's see. Is there a video to watch? No, doesn't work.
Error.
Oh, the SCAD Tower. A ride near Dallas, Texas is so terrifying that it's literally being used to learn more about the nature of fear. It wasn't made by scientists, mind you. They just found it and went, holy shit, let's do some experiments here before they shut it down. I think I've seen this before. The attraction is located at the Zero Gravity Thrill Park, which we're pretty sure might be the sketchiest looking amusement park ever. At first glance, it appears to be little more than a series of puzzling metal structures, but as you get closer, you learn that each of these structures has a clear purpose, scaring the shit out of you. The park's main attraction is the Suspended Catch Air Device, or SCAD, an unnecessarily complicated name for what is basically 4 pillars and a net. I think you just keep dropping down from the top of the tower.
Yeah.
The SCAD, go back, went too far. The SCAD works just like the Superman drop or the Tower of Terror, in that it takes you high up, and then lets you drop, with this small difference that in this case, you're not actually attached to anything during the drop. Basically, the whole mechanism consists of a person who takes you to the top and then lets you fall off.
Yeah, no. Okay, so you are in a harness, but you're not attached to anything.
Yeah. Let's
No
see how this
thanks.
looks. Let me see. Look it up. Maybe look. Watch a video on the SCAD tower here.
I mean, at least with like the giant swings around here, or like the big slingshot at Valley Fair, there's safety measures in play. You're not just flinging yourself.
I guess they have safety measures, but I don't know. They don't want to get sued.
Right.
The ride is so intensely disturbing that it has actually been used by medical professor David Engelman to test how the brain's perception of time changes during near-death experiences. Because you don't know you're going to survive it until you actually survive it.
Right.
You know, when I'm on roller coasters, I never think I'm going to die on a roller coaster, but
Right.
I might think I'm going to die on here.
Press button to descend.
Yeah. Give me 1 second.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm back.
Number 2, the Terrible Trio. The 1920s was a great time for roller coasters, but not so much for the people riding them. Apparently, not killing people wasn't as much of a priority back then as mentally scarring them for life. A prime example of this comes in the Terrible Trio of roller coasters designed by amusement park tycoon Harry G. Traver. There he is, good old Harry G. right there. The trio consisted of the Cyclone in Ontario, Canada, Lightning in Revere, Massachusetts, and another cyclone in Fort Lee, New Jersey. Traver specifically designed these coasters to be as unsafe as possible while not breaking any existing regulations, resulting in monstrously twisted knots of steel and wood that stood like giant monuments to an unloving god. 2 of the 3 caused at least 1 death within their first 2 days of operation.
Wow.
That
Yeah,
kind of looks
that-
like Twisted Timbers at King's Dominion.
That doesn't look safe.
No, it's basically it's like if someone like a little kid could design a roller coaster. I mean,
Right.
look at the wood. Looks like there's one piece of wood hanging off right here.
Yeah,
Good God.
it definitely wouldn't fly in today's engineering world.
No, but you gotta break a few eggs, I guess.
Well, I
Um,
mean,
One of those 2 deaths was on the Cyclone, which literally tore itself apart on a regular basis from how vicious it was, meaning that it couldn't operate on a normal schedule. Its opening hours were whenever we patched it together enough to work. Once it did manage to hold together, the G forces it generated were so fast that passengers frequently passed out while riding it. A nurse was kept on a Cyclone station at all times. In all likelihood, this was as much of a publicity stunt as it was an insurance necessity. You see that TikTok challenges. Go on the Cyclone
right.
in Ontario. I mean, look at this. And it's taken a long time to build. Look at the structure
Yeah.
right there. It's not like something you just put up in a day.
No.
You know?
That's going to take months.
I wonder how long it took to build these things. But if the Cyclone resembled a hospital, the Revere Beach Lightning was a shady back alley clinic. Its violent side-to-side motions were so intense that the phrase "take her on the lightning" actually became slang for abortion around the Boston area. That's
Jeez.
hardcore. That is holy shit.
Jeez. That kind of reminds me, I'm talking to Adrian right now in the chat, and I don't know if Excalibur is still there, but at Valley Fair, it was one of 2 wooden coasters they had. And Mom won't ride it. Dad stopped riding it because right after you come off of the lift hill, the first thing that happens is it puts you into a 45-degree right-hand turn right at the bottom of the hill.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure it caused neck injuries because you're whipping your head all of a sudden.
Yeah, those roller
But,
coasters,
yeah.
those wooden coasters are rough, man. There's a coaster called the Grizzly in King's Dominion, and they retract it, and apparently it's a lot smoother. But it felt like you were in a car accident when you ride that thing, and it would.
Yeah.
And I would ride it just because it's an old coaster and it's a rite of passage type thing. Like you got to ride the Grizzly.
Mhm.
Almost like how you punish yourself when you sin. That was my punishment.
Right.
You gotta ride the Grizzly. But apparently no one talked about having abortions on the Grizzly, so maybe it's not as rough as this ride is.
Right.
Finally, the New Jersey Cyclone didn't live up to the high standards of its baby-killing, self-mutilating brothers.
Oh, why can't we have the guy that writes this write something for us?
I know, right? But only because it was demolished by a Wise Park proprietor before it could do any harm. It was replaced by an unrelated coaster of the same name, probably an attempt to exercise the terrain. So I guess they never got to use the third one. And number 1, Action Park.
There we go.
There we go. Action Park is one of the most infamous ideas ever to come out of New Jersey, and that's counting those who currently broadcast on MTV and VH1. It's hard to believe that it really existed, and yet the evidence is undeniable. More specifically, we're talking about the death toll of 6 people and hundreds of serious injuries it caused between 1978 and 1996.
Yep. I mean, just
Look at
look at
that.
some of those rides.
And that's like a straight down shit right there.
Yeah.
But that's the thing of back in like the 70s and 80s, man. It was, you took a risk. You took a
Right.
risk doing stuff. Like the most like I can talk about that was like going. Remember, McDonald's used to have the outdoor playgrounds,
Oh
and
my
everything
gosh.
was made of metal and like,
Yep.
and it was you make it hurt. You make it hurt. If you're stupid, you make it hurt. If you
But you
But
got
you-
your Happy Meal, so it's all good.
yeah, and you knew not to do certain things like those. Remember those like carousels looking thing? It was like a circle and it had like bars on it, and you run and you start spinning really fast.
Yeah.
And if you let go, you're gonna fall down. You could break something.
Right.
And the slides were like made of metal.
Oh my
And
gosh.
if you go down the slide like in the summertime, it could seriously give you third-degree burns.
My
But you
wife
took
and I
that risk.
my wife and I were talking about that because we saw a picture of one that was like, I don't know, 10, 15 feet tall, and it had like 2 dips in it. It's like, dude, you better not, you knew to ride that either early in the morning or
Mhm.
late in the evening, because if you were in shorts,
Yeah,
you would get a bird,
your skin might actually stick
right?
and melt off onto the slide. But it's a chance you were willing to take to go down that 10
Right.
feet down that slide and have the thrill of your life.
Or the old school metal jungle gyms or the metal
Yeah.
geodesic domes.
Oh yeah. Or like you go like the giant grimace in the, you go in and shake and it's all made of metal and you would maybe that's why people are doing these challenges because they don't have what we had growing up. They're looking for something to, stand out or make their life meaningful.
Oh, it's like I told someone the other day. I grew up in the mid 80s and the freaking garden hose didn't kill me. It just made me better.
Oh yeah. Drinking out of the garden hose, not freaking washing your hands every 5 minutes.
Right?
It's just a different way of life, man. It's crazy.
Just as
And
long as you're
I'm not
home,
saying that, yeah. As long
right?
as you can hear your mom calling you.
Just as long as
um,
you're home before the street lights come on.
Exactly. And obviously these parks like safety, like Action Park,
Yep.
they had to take some safety measures and stuff, but
Yeah. But it was at the expense of riders' health and
Yes.
life in some
yeah,
points.
yeah, exactly. The park seemed to have put so little effort into making the attraction safe that even the operators, mostly leering teenagers, were afraid to go near them. Take, for example, the infamous Cannonball Loop, a massive water slide
Yes.
which sent riders out of an insanely long drop straight into a loop nearly 15 feet in diameter.
Yep.
That's just like something like kids would put together in their backyard.
There was
You know?
there was one guy, I was reading about this. There was one guy that didn't have enough energy or inertia to make it around the top on the loop, and he fell out of the top in the middle of the loop and paralyzed himself. And they had to cut it open to get him out.
God. The amount of force built by such a loop was easily enough to break bones, as evidenced by the bones it broke, and also the time when a crash test dummy was put through the slide and came out in 3 pieces. As a reminder, crash test dummies are specifically made to be difficult to break. Cannonball Loop was actually in operation for very short periods before the constant injuries forced the owners to close it down, but it remained near the entrance as a reminder of the insanity of Action Park. Man drowned in pool at Action Park. You know what? I never understood the point of are
What's that?
wave pools. And it's not like you're at the beach when you get a wave, you wave and you ride it in on the boogie board. You can't do that.
Right.
You can't take boogie boards into a water park. But everyone goes to the wave pool. All it does is send a like a little like wave of water. You go up and then you go
Yep.
down. But there are a ton of people in there. And it just comes to me, it becomes a giant toilet.
Well, and
That's all I'm
and
thinking about if I'm in a wave pool is, oh my God,
I
how
can
much pee am I
speak
standing in right now?
I can speak to that as being a lifeguard. I never guarded a wave pool, but I had a friend of mine that worked at the Water Park of America, and they had a wave pool, and they would do extensive training with rescues and all that. But yeah, you get a lot of people in there, and you get the waves going, and it's really hard to watch the water because
is.
it's not like a standard pool where you can see the surface and you can see someone underneath it, because you always have waves breaking and you
Mhm.
can't see the tension of the water. So you don't always know, like when I was guarding at the pool, I could tell you who was in my section of water and I could tell you if they were underwater. Well, at a wave
Yeah.
pool, you can tell who's in your water, but you don't know if anybody's underneath the waves.
No, it's got to be so. And these are kids basically in charge of your life.
Oh yeah.
And they have life jackets and stuff like that. So
Mhm.
for the most part, you should be safe. But there's always that one.
And they've got the training. I mean,
Yeah.
I went through when I did my lifeguard cert. I think I had probably about a month of training, and that's not it. When you're done, they don't just you passed and you don't do any training. The
You know
group that
everything
I
you need to
worked
know.
with. Well, the group that I worked with, I think every month we would have an in-service where we would have to swim. We would have to swim 500 yards continuously, and then it was a continuing ed. But yeah, there's that point where that being a lifeguard 9 times out of 10 is somebody's first job, and
Yeah.
they are young, and some of these lifeguards can't pull big heavy guys like you and me out of the water, but and I'm sure things have changed since the years that I was a lifeguard, but that has always been a concern. Is this teenager going to be able to affect a rescue? Sometimes they can, sometimes they can't.
Yeah. I mean, I know they have like maybe two. They had two lifeguards at the one at King's Dominion. They kind of have to because it's such a big pool. They got to have people on either side of the thing. The park had no shortage of dangerous attractions, though, like the Alpine Slide, a zigzagging cement ditch taking down the side of a mountain. Riders could control the speed of their flimsily constructed sledge without any sort of supervision, which is made even more dangerous by the fact that the ditch lacked any sort of railings or paddings of any kind. Also, there was no such thing as a seatbelt, because he needs those. Rider speed and the general disinterest of the operators made the ideal roaming ground for packs of bullies. Made it the ideal roaming ground for packs of bullies. Cutting out seatbelts and technicians from the budget probably made this one of the cheapest air rides ever, but where they saved in precautions, they lost in lawsuits. The Alpine Slide alone reported more than 40 injuries and one death during just 2 years of rides. The tracks were eventually torn down by later owners, at which point they probably found dozens of bodies buried underneath. And finally, there is the tidal wave pool. It is 3-foot tall artificial waves, which required 12 active lifeguards on duty at all times, and still accounted for half the deaths in the park. Had Action Park continued to exist, we're probably pretty sure the entire population of New Jersey would have been depleted by now. We'll let you decide if that's a good thing or not. So, those are the 6 most terrifying theme park rides.
Well, and I'm sure we could do a couple of shows on this subject. There's a lot of incidents that happened that built the safety factors that parks run off of today.
Mm-hmm. You can do. That's another On My Mind with CR Zarn podcast right there.
Yeah, we could bring you on. We could talk about it till we're blue in the face.
Yeah. But I am going to end the show here. I think we've talked enough about fun stuff. I'm gonna eat
Oh,
some
look
lunch.
at
I
that.
am
Almost
hungry.
an hour and 20 minutes.
Yeah. We talked about the joys of drinking Diet Right.
Right.
You know,
Mad Dog
alcohol.
2020.
Yeah, Karen, Adrian was talking about doing a show about on accidents at Disney. Maybe do a Disney show, Disney lore and superstitions and
Yeah, there's
stuff like that.
There's a lot of it there.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, that would be fun. And she actually grew up in Garden Grove, California.
Okay.
So it was commonplace for her to go to Disneyland all the time with her friends.
Awesome. We'll have to work on that.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, man. I will talk to you later.
Sounds good, Ryan.
All right. Thanks again for coming on.
Yeah, you're welcome, bro.
All right.
Talk
Have a
to
good
you
night.
later. Yep.
Bye. All right. Thank you guys for tuning in. Hope you have a great day. And I will see you Monday. Don't forget to turn into On My Mind with CR and Adrian tomorrow night. I think they're talking about forest, like park rangers with Doc Zarn. And CR has his train show on Saturday as well. And I've got the Freaking Awesome Paranormal show with Dana Marie Vollmer on Tuesday night. And I'll probably do some more supernatural news at some point. So anyways, hope you guys have a great day. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.